If you have anything in terms of technical issues, please put that in the chat. Otherwise, know that attendance is required. We're going to put the link in the chat as well, and also a survey that needs to be filled out, and that will be given at the end of the presentation. Presentation will end about 5 minutes prior to, I believe it is 10:15. So that way we can move on to the next room for people, and we can do what we need to there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and turn over the time over to our presenters, and first I'll turn over to Shannon.
Thank you. Appreciate that very much, Kyle. Good morning, everybody. Abby, my colleague, and I are so glad to be here to talk about the Nevada Press Project. If you're in this room, you may have heard a little bit about it, or perhaps we'll be introducing it to you this morning. During this session, we'll introduce ourselves and share some information about the project. And so we just like to get started with some introductions. So again, my name is Shannon Karkula, and Kyle pronounced it perfectly, which is rare, so that was wonderful. I am a press literacy specialist at the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, which is Minneapolis-St. Paul. I joined the press team this spring after having worked in both public and charter schools throughout the Twin Cities for about 15 years. And I personally am a second career educator after coming to the field working in clinical research prior to this. So in education, though, my roles have included being a classroom teacher, a reading interventionist. I have also taught, been a literacy coach. And so I've been in a number of roles in the schools throughout my time in the field. I hold a bachelor degree from the College of St. Catherine, which is in St. Paul. And before I joined the press team, I too had the opportunity to participate in some training opportunities with the press framework and engaged in implementation at a school site. So I can attest to how powerful this particular framework is for supporting teachers and readers. And I'm just really glad to be here today with Abby to tell you more about our partnership with the Nevada Department of Education. Abby, would you like to share a bit about yourself as well?
Yeah, happy to. I was going to say the same thing. It's rare to have my name pronounced correctly. It's French, French Canadian actually. So my name is Abby Langlois, and I, with Shannon, I'm a press literacy specialist, and I partner with her to facilitate the Press Nevada project. Last winter, I joined the team after having spent 15 years in various roles in education. I've been a classroom teacher in both elementary and secondary. I've been a building literacy coach. I've been a district literacy coordinator and a community faculty teaching pre-service teachers, which has been really wonderful. So I have a bachelor in science in elementary education with a specialty in English language arts from a college here in Minnesota, the University of Mankato. And I have my literacy education Master of Arts with a K-12 reading certificate from St. Mary's University. So I first learned about press in 2014 when I attended a workshop on Classwide Interventions. And then I took that and put it into place in my own classroom. And now I get to work with this amazing team. And it just goes to show you never know where a learning experience is going to take you. So I really feel fortunate that I get to work with this team. So I'll hand it over to Shannon because we are pretty packed today, but I'm just glad to be here.
Thanks, Abby. And Abby will be monitoring the chat while I'm taking the lead on sharing some information with you. So if you have any questions for us, please don't hesitate to use the chat and we'll respond as we can throughout. So again, welcome to all of you. And now that you know a little bit about us, we would like to know at least what your role is in the field and the work that you're doing in the state of Nevada. So if you wouldn't mind just entering into the chat, what is your role? How are you doing work on behalf of students in your state? We've given you some choices on the slide. If you want to make it easy, feel free just to enter the number and let's see who's here. Great, we've got some teachers in the room. Very excited to see teachers in the room. We've been fortunate to have a number of teachers, particularly classroom educators, joining into the current cohort of this project. And it's nice to see so many of you here today. And someone who's fulfilling an other role. We love the others because you bring perspectives that differ from those of us who are in buildings. Terrific. Well, you're welcome to continue responding. So again, we have a sense of what your current perspective might be in the work. Again, as we're talking about this project, you'll find you'll likely link into some of the content here, regardless of your role. But this work was written specifically to uplift site-based literacy specialists and those who are providing instructional practice and literacy leadership at schools K-5 throughout Nevada. So it's nice to have you here today. All right. Well, we always like to provide an agenda so you simply know what's coming up. So during our session today, we will introduce you to PRESS. We'll demonstrate one key aspect of the PRESS framework as it looks in practice. We'll share details about the goals and the design of the PRESS Nevada project. We'll introduce just a few resources, and then we'll provide you with some information about how you and colleagues that you know in the field might participate in upcoming cohorts of the project. And then we'll also leave a few minutes at the end for some questions. So that's what you can expect from us this morning. Well, as I said first, I'd like to tell you a bit about PRESS and provide you with some background information. So PRESS originated at the University of Minnesota, where a team of researchers developed a framework to support effective multi-tiered systems of support, or MTSS, for elementary reading. The project is called Path to Reading Excellence at School Sites, or PRESS. We very frequently just refer to it as PRESS. It's good shorthand. But the primary goal of PRESS is to establish school-based systems and practices for all K-5 students to become capable readers. So that is what we're all about here. Now, PRESS began in 2011. It was a grant-funded project that was supported by the Target Corporation. The project had been developed by 3 faculty members from the University of Minnesota in partnership with a nonprofit reading organization and was implemented in 6 urban schools. From 2011 to 2014, the work was implemented in those schools with the support of university staff, including graduate students and literacy coaches. And the university staff worked with the school sites to develop and refine materials during those project years. Now, the grant came to an end in 2014, and now PRESS continues to provide professional learning opportunities and resources in a number of states across the country, including Nevada. One of the key resources then that came out of the work during those project years is our intervention manual. We are currently on the 3rd edition of that resource. And the manual provides details about the PRESS decision-making practices. We also provide syntheses of research, and we have many protocols for evidence-based interventions. It's a key resource for many of the educators we work with, as it helps them to take the PRESS framework into the schools and support teachers and students alike. Now, in 2016, we then introduced our online tool, the PRESS Learning Community. Anyone can create an account, and you'll find many free resources here. Participants in the PRESS Nevada project are provided with a copy of the manual and are also then given a 3-year premium subscription to our website. And Abby will share a link in the chat to the website, and we'll tell you more about some of the basic features of that site a little bit later. Well, now I'd like to tell you about the design of the PRESS framework. The framework does include 4 pillars, and they are quality core instruction, data-driven decision-making, tiered interventions, and professional learning. The framework pillars are interrelated and interdependent, and when they're implemented effectively, they allow schools to operationalize and put into practice an effective MTSS model for K-5 literacy learning. Now, the 4 interrelated pillars of PRESS, which you see on the bottom of this infographic, they are aligned with multi-tiered systems of support. And as we help schools to implement, we help them to evaluate and refine their core instruction so it reflects evidence-based practices to ensure efficacy. And you can see the criteria related to the core instruction pillar in the orange section of the infographic here, just as you can see the evidence-based aspects for each of the other 3 pillars here. Now, each of the criteria within each pillar is necessary to move towards that vision of all K-5 students reading proficiently at grade level. So they work in concert with one another. Now, importantly, PRESS is grounded in the science of reading, which is a term that's really been getting a lot of attention lately. And we are so happy about that because it brings a good deal more attention to the body of knowledge available in the field that helps us teach reading effectively to all students. Now, given its importance, let's just break down this phrase a bit more. What is the science of reading? So it is the accumulated knowledge about reading development and best practices for reading instruction obtained by the results of reading research spanning the last 3 decades. And for us as teachers, it means that it really takes the guesswork out of teaching reading. We can rely on evidence to reduce our uncertainty about how to teach reading. And there's also a likelihood that we can prevent inappropriate referrals for special education services. And we can also likely reduce the need for supplemental and intensive interventions. So ultimately, more students will become proficient readers because of the proactive evidence-based instruction we're providing for all students. We do offer a paper outlining how PRESS aligns with the science of reading on our website, but to make it easy to find, Abby will also share that in the chat so you don't have to go digging for it. Well, now I'd like to give you a glimpse of PRESS in practice, and we certainly can't share all the details of the PRESS framework and how that would work at your school today, but we want to share some of the key elements and give you a sense of how it's realized. So this triangle may look pretty familiar to you. It's a typical MTSS triangle presented visually in the way we often see it, where 80% of students should have their educational needs met with the service of Tier 1 instruction. 15% of students then may need a Tier 2 supplemental intervention, and about 5% of students may need some intensive intervention that could be delivered in a Tier 3 model. Now, elementary school leaders and teachers like you work really hard to make this a reality. We'd all like our data to look this way, but we know that this iteration of the MTSS triangle just simply isn't the reality in many schools, where instead our data look more like this, with many students needing Tier 2 interventions. And that we know is a challenging situation to face, as most schools simply don't have the resources to address student needs effectively when our data are distributed like this. So that's why when analyzing screening data at PRESS, we first ask the question, is there a class-wide need? Our purpose here is to address students' needs with class-wide interventions within the first tier to help us mitigate the need for Tier 2 interventions for at least some students. Now, you'll recall, as I just shared, one of the pillars of PRESS is tiered interventions. And these tiered interventions begin in Tier 1, which is the core instructional environment, including all children. So to illustrate, I'll tell you a little bit about the what, the why, and the how of these class-wide interventions. What exactly is a class-wide intervention? Well, it's an intervention that is delivered to all students when a classroom median score is below a seasonal benchmark based on the results of your universal screening data. And to illustrate a class-wide intervention in practice, I'd like to tell you a short story about a classroom where some students were demonstrating significant needs. It was the beginning of the school year in a first grade classroom. This teacher had a group of students who were demonstrating scores below target on their fall screening assessment. So in the fall of first grade, the school used a universal screening measure that assessed the students' proficiency in decoding consonant, vowel, consonant, or CVC words. Now, those types of measures often use either low frequency real words or made up CVC words that are called nonsense words. And in this case, the measure was of a nonsense word fluency, NWF. And the target score for fall was 32 sounds correct in 1 minute. Now, in the fourth column of this data snapshot, you see what the initial data set looked like for the class. And the scores are sorted from the highest on the top to the lowest on the bottom for that nonsense word fluency measure. The scores are color-coded, with green indicating scores that are at or above the fall target, while the scores in yellow or red fell below the target. So here you can see 13 students scored at or above the target, whereas 15 students did score below the target. So like most of you, this first grade teacher just didn't have the resources necessary to intervene effectively in small groups for those 15 children demonstrating scores below the target at that point. So in response, the teacher implemented a class-wide decoding intervention for a short period of time, 10 days. The intervention used sound boxes and decodable short vowel words. At the end of the 10 days, he, along with some other support staff, then reassessed each student with a 1-minute word reading fluency measure that looked at the same skill that had been assessed during the screening, and then they reviewed the results. So now take a look at that last column in our data snapshot, and you can see the number of students who met the target score after the class-wide intervention. Those scores again are highlighted in green. So with a quick count, you can see now there are 22 students demonstrating scores meeting or exceeding the target, and 7 students demonstrating scores below the target. So at this point, instead of needing to intervene with 15 students who would demand secondary support in tier 2, interventions were only needed for 7 students. And that's a much, much more manageable situation, especially since most schools have more than one section in a grade level. And in this case too, there were other sections in first grade that needed support. So from this point, the school moved into some tier 2 data analysis and determined how they'd provide targeted support to the students continuing to demonstrate that need. Well, what are the steps then to implement a class-wide intervention? We'll give you this in a snapshot. The process begins with collecting and organizing your universal screening data. All students participate in universal screening. Data collection is then followed by data analysis. It's at this stage where teams analyze the data to determine if a class-wide intervention is indicated. And at Press, we suggest a class-wide intervention is needed when half or more of students in a classroom perform below benchmark on a universal screening measure. When this is the case, a class-wide intervention is implemented by the classroom teacher for 10 to 12 consecutive days. And the interventions are brief. They take 10 to 20 minutes each day, so they can be integrated into the schedule for core instruction. And notice too, all students participate. Then, after 10 to 12 days of intervention instruction, the teacher will reassess to collect another round of data and examine individual student growth. From there, we determine next steps, which does include identifying children for whom Tier 2 intervention is now indicated. Now, of course, you want to know why we put stock in class-wide interventions, and they provide a meaningful opportunity to support students' learning. The results of an initial study from one of our interventions called Partner Reading with Paragraph Shrinking demonstrated really promising results. Before the class-wide intervention, only 44% of students were performing at or above a benchmark. But after that short 10 to 12 day intervention, that number jumped to 76% at or above benchmark. So a class-wide intervention is essentially a means of kind of shoring up your core instruction when it's indicated, and it can be a really powerful way to augment your Tier 1. Now, this quote we refer to often at Press because it supports the importance of starting with examining screening data to determine if there's a class-wide need. Lasso and Marietta state, only once a strong and well-targeted instructional core is in place can we begin to build interventions that will serve as truly supplemental and supportive instruction. So ultimately, a key goal of an MTSS implementation is to ensure efficient and effective tiered supports so that children will have their needs met and schools are efficiently aligning their time, human, and financial resources to meet those needs. So this work needs to happen across all tiers. Now with that, I've given you perhaps the fastest overview of how Press is grounded in our 4 pillars and a snapshot into one aspect of our practice with class-wide intervention. We'd like to give you some time to just process your thoughts and talk with others. So we will move briefly into some small breakout rooms, and we've got a couple of prompts that might spur your conversation. We'd like you to reflect on and discuss MTSS for K-5 literacy as you see it at your own school or those you support. And you might talk about the story I told about class-wide intervention. Does that resonate with you in any way? And if so, how? Or you might decide to talk about needs at your school that could be supported by the 4 pillars of the Press framework. Again, those were quality core instruction, data-driven decision-making, tiered interventions, and professional learning. So we'd like to move you into rooms with, say, 3 people. And Abby, I believe as co-host, you were able to organize those. Does anyone have questions before we move you in for about a 4-minute conversation? Feeling okay? Great. Let's go into those breakout rooms so people can talk.
All right, they are up and open and people are joining.
Thanks, Abby.
Yeah, anytime.
Let's see, it looks like maybe Brittany might be by herself in room number 5. We could probably move her into room 4. What do you think?
Yep. Do you want me to do it or you going to do it?
I can grab it.
Perfect.
Don't want anyone to be on their own. Okay, looks like she's there. Everyone else has at least a colleague to talk to. I
Perfect.
will stop sharing screen so you can share next.
Awesome. Thanks, Shannon.
Trying to talk through my cold, so let me know if it was a little too snaggle-toothy.
No, you were great. All right.
It seemed everything was going pretty good. So
Okay, thank you.
All right, so you can see my screen.
Yes, we have the LoSo slide, breakout room slide. Perfect.
Perfect. All right. How are you feeling, Shannon?
I'm glad it's the weekend. Needs a little extra rest. How about you, Abby?
I'm okay.
Okay.
I could use some extra rest, but not because I'm sick.
I believe you, I know.
Yeah.
Pardon me.
Doing pretty good on time though, so that's good.
Yeah, I think we're doing okay on time. So we had intended to end this breakout room at 11:46 our time. I think if we go 2 minutes and then close them, we'll be in good shape.
Sounds good.
I love our precision timestamps. I'm surprised we're not like 11:45 and 13 seconds.
I almost did when I was looking at them. Because there's so many that were like 10 seconds per slide or 30 seconds. And I was like, But no.
It's always, it tears at my heart when I do a 30-second timestamp when I know it really only needs 20 seconds, but I try to round.
I know. 13 and a half seconds. Shannon, there were a couple names on the list today that I recognized from our cohorts.
Yeah, I
Did
saw
you?
Bridget. I saw Pam.
Yep.
Did I miss anybody?
I thought I saw Lisa Calvert.
Okay. Oh yeah, great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, awesome.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, poor Kyle, as the moderator, we might want to stay on for just 1 minute to say hi to a few folks that we saw in our first cohort.
no problem. We're relaxed.
I know, Abby, I think Bridget is presenting next in this room about map data.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I might try to hang on and watch that one. I know things are being recorded though too, which is convenient.
Yeah. I know I want to, but I hear too much activity going on in my household.
I understand. We need to close the rooms and bring folks back, Abby.
Yeah, you can go for it.
Okay, sending it out.
Thank you.
All set. Oh, funny, no one's back yet. And Lisa and Pam wound up in the same breakout room.
I noticed that.
All right, the inadequacy of time in breakout rooms rears its ugly head yet again.
I know.
Like, honestly, I feel like these sessions, I need to start thinking about like a 40-60 rule instead of even, 25-75 like we use for our Nevada stuff usually.
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
that's fair.
All right, they're all coming back in now, Abby, so we should see faces emerging. Welcome back, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you, Shannon, for doing that. All right, so welcome back from the breakout rooms. Hopefully you had some good conversations with your colleagues. I wish that we could give you a lot more time, but we're pretty tight today. So we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to shift gears and talk about press and how what it looks like for the Nevada Press Project, really. So Nevada began focusing on early literacy in 2015, and results from the fourth grade NAEP or NAEP reading assessments in 2019, several years later, showed that there were some encouraging results, that we saw the first cohort of those students began to close gaps between the Nevada and US peers. In 2022, Nevada's fourth grade reading assessment results, much like their US peers, backtracked. And it's difficult to know the exact cause of this dip, but the pandemic certainly made things difficult for schools and especially our students. But the larger perspective to keep in mind is not the dip in numbers in 2022 or during the pandemic, but looking at what a collective focus can bring. So the state focused on early literacy in 2015, and we saw results through 2019. So this is where the work for the Nevada Press Project comes in. It's the perfect opportunity to make a difference. So the Nevada Press Project is grounded by two concepts: the science of reading, which is then operationalized or situated within a multi-tiered systems of support framework, ultimately putting our knowledge of the science of reading into effect within a well-composed MTSS framework will lead to more equitable learning experiences and outcomes for our students. So here we see the Nevada MTSS core elements presented in this infographic. And across the Nevada Press course, we draw connections and illustrate strategies related to each of these elements. So we have teaming with shared decision-making and leadership, problem-solving models and data-based decision-making, systematic implementation and progress monitoring, tiered continuum of supports, regular screening for all students, evidence-based interventions and implementation, and high-quality instruction. The Nevada Press Project supports Read by Grade 3 and the alignment with the state policy laid out in Nevada Assembly Bill 289 by providing job-embedded professional learning for Nevada state literacy leaders and site-based literacy specialists to impact teacher practice and drive student reading achievement forward. This project aligns with the statewide goals of providing reading support for students to meet grade level expectations, having site-based literacy specialists serve as resources to build the capacity of reading teachers, and implementing differentiation strategies so that all students, including English learners and those with characteristics of dyslexia, will have access to quality reading instruction. So PRESS takes a comprehensive approach to the science of reading, and it aligns directly to the Nevada academic content standards. It includes a balanced set of methodologies for critical elements of reading instruction, and it uses a multi-tiered systems of support and evidence-based practices. So this project was tailored to effectively meet the specific needs of Nevada educators, and it will foster immediate applications in your schools and classrooms. So with that in mind, we'd like to provide you with just a high-level overview of the content addressed in the course, which is organized into 8 modules. So participants begin with Module 1, which addresses the science of reading, and then they move into Module 2, which unpacks multi-tiered systems of support in elementary literacy. Both modules 1 and 2 are fully asynchronous and happen through Canvas, our learning management system. Participants watch pre-recorded video segments to learn about the content, and then they complete activities on Canvas that invite them to apply and reflect on their learning. So these 2 modules really lay the groundwork for the rest of the course. Beginning in Module 3, we have live sessions where we present new content on the module topic. So Module 3, as you can see, addresses quality core instruction. Module 4 dives into Tier 1 differentiation. And in Module 5, we present data-driven decision-making for class-wide interventions, which you heard a little bit earlier. Module 6 considers means of supporting English learners in both tiers 1 and 2. Module 7 explores tier 2 interventions. And then in Module 8, we wrap up by addressing leadership practices that bring all of this work to fruition. So it's our hope that participants have a positive experience with this course. And in designing it, we were guided by 3 words that convey our hopes and expectations about participants' engagement and participation. So the first term that we really thought of was the term rigorous. And we have designed the course to bring content which synthesizes current research about reading instruction in MTSS. We've designed activities to inspire positive changes at schools for the benefit of students. So we hope that participants find the course interesting, challenging, and thought-provoking as they take on the assignments to get the most out of their learning. The second word underpinning our course design was meaningful. We want the course content to make a difference for educators' work with students and teachers. And the course is designed with learning each week that is meant to be directly applied at school sites. And the last word is realistic. We know that teachers have a lot of responsibilities beyond this course, and so we assume that participants are committing as much time as they can to apply the learning at their schools and within their site partners. So as I shared, there are 8 modules within the Nevada Press course, and it may be helpful to have an overview of the design and flow of the course. So if you were to join this learning experience, you'll notice that there's something of a rhythm to each of the learning modules. So each begins with a pre-work that gets participants situated in their learning and ready to engage with the module's content. The following the pre-work is the module session. So they join either an asynchronous for the first 2 or a live session for the rest, where press instructors present new content. And these sessions are also recorded to allow flexibilities for those who can't attend the in-person session. Following that session is an opportunity to extend, apply, and reflect on your learning through various activities on Canvas. So that includes quizzes, discussions, and application exercises. All told, each module requires about 3 to 5 hours of engagement, which does include participating in the viewing of the module session. So this course was created with state literacy leaders and site-based literacy specialists in mind. That's why the final module of the course addresses leadership. And we know that educators in those roles will have strong desires to apply their learning from this course in an impactful way. So for this reason, we've planned a capstone activity that will take place during Module 8. In addition to the state literacy leaders, the many teachers that have signed up for this course are early adopters or agents of change within their sites. And they too will benefit from this as they have an opportunity to choose a capstone to implement within their classroom. The topics for the capstone fall into 2 categories. The first is implementation. Those considering an implementation-focused capstone will look into one of 3 areas. They have class-wide interventions, tier 2 interventions, and English learner supports. And those who select to work on the area of evaluation can evaluate at least one aspect of their school's MTSS structures, instruction and environment, or curriculum. Each capstone suggestions relate to an area of work that has an impactful or meaningful impact on teachers' practices and student learnings. All right, so we recognize that course participants are very busy professionals dedicating their time to their school community and to the other life events. So the course is designed to complement participants' professional work and provide opportunities to apply knowledge, processes, and skills that will improve instruction and learning outcomes for students. So to keep it rigorous, meaningful, and realistic, some aspects of the course are required, whereas other aspects are just strongly suggested. So here's what's required. We have all quizzes, discussion threads, and activities for modules 1, 2, 4, and 6, the capstone, and the evaluation survey. And for those who, for the other activities that are not required, they're greatly encouraged. Those would be pre-work activities and activities for modules 3, 5, and 7. Anyone who completes the required course elements are eligible for 25 professional learning hours from the Nevada Department of Education, which is very generous, I thought. So now I'm going to take some time to go over public resources that are available for course participants, or what's available for course participants and the general public. Oh, there we go. So besides the course instructors and your fellow colleagues, course participants have access to several additional resources. The first is Canvas. So as you've picked up, Canvas is our learning management system. It's the hub of course content and engagement. On there, participants find videos, research, and other documents that pertain to each module. Each participant will have a press intervention manual, which will be used to support learning and implementation at schools. It's full of information on research, frameworks, interventions, and more. Participants are given a premium subscription to our website, presscommunity.org, where they can find additional videos and tools to support learning and implementation. Resources on the website are especially helpful when you're communicating with colleagues about new practices. Registration in the course includes access to the website for 3 years. And lastly, if you're interested, you can follow us on Twitter at Path2Read. So participants are given directions on how to sign up for their premium account when they do their official sign up in Canvas, but anyone can visit our site and they can create an account to access free content. You just have to go to presscommunity.org and click on sign up. On there, from our homepage, you have access to many resources. In the Learn tab, you can access about 40 short tutorial videos that walk you through different aspects of press. There's videos that address planning, intervening, monitoring, instruction, and coaching. And the Learn videos are all quite brief, and they could be quite helpful for anyone who's reviewing content or trying to teach others. Participants have access to all the materials on the site, and there are plenty of great free videos for anyone interested. Once in the navigation bar, you'll see the Tools tab, and here you find downloadable materials that supplement our interventions, such as sound picture cards, picture sound cards, and phonics word lists. In the video section, you'll find demonstration videos of our interventions. And you'll also find progress monitoring skill assessments for phonemic awareness and phonics available to download here. All right, and then if you go into the events tab, you'll find the option of looking at upcoming workshops that are on campus, along with a collection of webinars that were previously recorded. They cover a variety of topics related to literacy instruction and intervention. So for example, the first one on the left is from our director, and it's on the effective universal instruction, or you can even see in the middle one there, there's a video on press intervention materials. All right, so definitely check it out if you're interested. But let's wrap up by talking about what opportunities are out there to participate in the Nevada Press Project. So here are a few comments for participants from our first cohort. We don't have a lot of time to read them all, but one participant said, "Those I know that have participated in the Nevada Press cannot say enough positive things about this workshop. Thank you for providing professional learning that is directly targeting the needs of teachers and students." And that was really wonderful to read. So there are 4 upcoming Nevada Press Project cohorts available, and we strongly encourage site-based Read by Grade 3 literacy specialists to participate. Participation is also open to school administrators and educators who have touch points with K-5 reading instruction, including classroom teachers. Dates for upcoming cohorts are listed on this slide, and we have sessions that begin in January, February, April, and June. Please note that the June course is compacted, so it's a bit more intensive experience. Details about dates and a full description of the course can be found on a flyer that Shannon will push out in the chat. To express interest in registering for the course, you need only to complete a brief Google form that is managed by Mandy Latham, who is a member of the Nevada Department of Education Read by Grade 3 team. Shannon will push out that link in this chat forum as well. And once you've expressed interest via the Google form, a full registration detail will be shared through email a bit closer to the start date. Participants need to complete the steps outlined in the email to get fully registered and set up their Canvas account with the University of Minnesota. So if you have any questions, you are welcome to reach out to us. We'll share our contact information as we wrap up today, or you can reach out to the Read Write Grade 3 members at the Nevada Department of Education. That would be Mandy Latham and Dr. Kevin Marie Laxalt. All right, so if you're interested, I know that Shannon pushed all of those out. So thank you for those of you who participated in the session today. Please stay in touch with us and visit our website to learn more about our professional development and resources to support MTSS and elementary reading. If you have questions, please type them in the chat and we'd love to answer them. And Shannon, I have not been keeping track of the chat, so.
No worries at all. And I do notice as I've been copying the links in, I believe people will have to download and save them. There seems to be an oddity with how my pasting is working today, so I apologize. And we can certainly ask Mandy Latham to send out the registration information as she has been doing to the K-5 literacy community. So you will be able to get connected as well. And certainly if you have questions, go ahead and post those in the chat.
I will try to put the link in there as well.
Thank you, Abby.
That's helpful. Yeah. Gotta love technology.
Honestly, when I have a bit of a cold, I'm not the best. I'll just admit it.
Oh, and here I'll push out a information flyer that we did earlier. So it looks like mine did come out as links. Is that right, Shannon?
Yes, they did. Thank you so
Awesome.
much. I appreciate
So there's
it.
the flyer, and then here is the sign up link if you're interested. And then did you put their contact information for?
No, we can do that.
Okay. Awesome. Here. All right. So I think I got all the, oh, we both did.
All right. And again, we're happy to take any questions. I do see a few folks who actually participated in the first cohort. I won't call them out at all, but we appreciate you coming and hope that the work is continuing to come to fruition at your sites. We so enjoyed working with you all in that first cohort as well.
Oh, I saw a comment in there. This course is changing instruction at my school. That's so cool.
That's amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, there's another one. I participated and it's a game changer.
We're so glad to hear that. And just to make note for those who are here and having participated in the first cohort, we do have ongoing office hours about every 2 weeks for previous cohorts. So when you do participate in the project, we're happy to stay connected with you and continue to connect you both back to us at Press and to other educators in your community who've taken the course, because putting this work into play is not a solo operation. You will want to chat it through, and we're here to do that throughout the year. All right, and it looks like Kyle has reminded us about participants taking advantage of the survey in order to log your attendance. That is really helpful. Abby and I can certainly stay on for the next 5 minutes or so. I believe we actually wrapped up a bit early today, but also I know if you're participating in this conference, you're probably spending a good deal of your day on Zoom. So we certainly don't need you to stay on and make your eyes weary before the end of the day. You're welcome to, provided Kyle is all set, to log off once people have that attendance information, and Abby and I can stay on to address questions if there are any. Thank you, Rebecca.
I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.
Sounds great.